Communicating with a narcissist can leave you feeling confused, frustrated, and emotionally drained. You walk into conversations hoping for understanding, only to walk out questioning yourself. You explain your intentions, defend your words, and try to stay calm, yet somehow the conversation still turns against you. When you communicate with a narcissist, one of the biggest traps you fall into is believing that if you could just explain yourself better, the conversation would finally make sense. You start adding more details, more examples, more background, hoping that clarity will lead to understanding. But with a narcissist, understanding is not the goal, control is. They are not listening to absorb your meaning. They are listening for something they can twist, challenge, or use to regain dominance in the conversation. This is why trying to be understood becomes emotionally exhausting. Every added sentence gives them more material to manipulate, more angles to question, and more opportunities to redirect the conversation away from the original issue. Clarity works differently. Clarity does not require agreement, approval, or emotional validation. Clarity simply means stating your position in a way that is clean, direct, and complete. Once your message has been expressed clearly, your responsibility ends. Whether they accept it, reject it, or distort it is no longer your burden. Many people stay trapped because they confuse clarity with persuasion. They believe communication only succeeds when the other person nods, agrees, or changes behavior. In reality, communication succeeds the moment you express your truth calmly and honestly, without self-betrayal. Narcissistic personalities often pretend not to understand in order to pull you back into explaining. They may say things like, "That's not what you said," or "You're contradicting yourself," or "You're being unclear." These statements are not genuine requests for clarity. They are tactics designed to make you doubt yourself. When you respond by over-explaining, you unintentionally hand them power. The conversation shifts from your boundary or concern into a trial where you feel pressured to prove your innocence. Being clear means choosing simple language and standing by it. It means saying what you mean once, without emotional overflow. For example, instead of listing 10 reasons for your decision, you state the decision itself. Instead of defending your intent, you state your position. Clear communication is brief because it does not need reinforcement. Lengthy explanations often signal uncertainty, even when you are certain. Narcissists are skilled at sensing that uncertainty and pressing on it. Another reason clarity is so effective is because it removes the emotional hook. When you aim to be understood, your emotions become involved. You want fairness, you want acknowledgement, you want recognition. When you aim to be clear, the focus shifts inward. You measure success by your own behavior rather than their reaction. This internal shift is what restores balance. You stop chasing emotional outcomes and start practicing emotional discipline. Clarity also creates consistency. When you repeat the same message without changing your wording, the narcissist loses momentum. They thrive on confusion and emotional escalation. Clear statements repeated calmly act like a wall they cannot climb. You are no longer reacting, you are responding. You are no longer negotiating your boundaries, you are stating them. Most importantly, clarity protects your sense of self. You stop questioning whether you said something wrong, whether you sounded harsh, whether you should have worded it differently. You know what you said because it was intentional. You said enough. You said it once, and you did not abandon yourself in the process. When dealing with a narcissist, your tone often matters more than your words. You can say the most reasonable thing in the world, but if your voice carries frustration, urgency, or emotion, the conversation will immediately shift. Narcissistic personalities are highly attuned to emotional signals. They may ignore logic completely, yet react instantly to tone. A raised voice, a defensive edge, or even a rushed explanation can become their leverage. Once emotion enters your delivery, the focus is no longer on what you said, but on how you said it. This is why regulating your tone before you respond is critical. Regulation does not mean suppressing feelings or pretending nothing bothers you. It means choosing not to let emotion drive your communication. When you respond while emotionally activated, your nervous system takes control. Words come faster than thought. Your voice tightens. Your breathing shortens. In that state, you are far more likely to say something you later regret or something that can be used against you. Narcissists often provoke emotional reactions intentionally. They interrupt, accuse, mock, or dismiss because emotional reactions give them control. Once your tone changes, they can shift the narrative. They may say you are too sensitive, overreacting, or out of control. At that point, the original issue disappears, replaced by an argument about your behavior. This is not accidental, it is strategic. Regulating your tone begins before you speak, not while you are speaking. A pause can completely change the direction of the conversation. Slowing your breathing, relaxing your shoulders, and allowing silence creates space between stimulus and response. That space is where control lives. Silence often feels uncomfortable, especially when someone is pressuring you, but it prevents impulsive reactions. A calm pause communicates confidence far more than immediate replies. A steady tone also disrupts their expectations. When someone is used to getting emotional reactions, calmness can feel disarming. Short sentences delivered slowly reduce opportunities for misinterpretation. The fewer emotional cues you give, the less material they have to work with. Calm speech creates predictability, and predictability limits manipulation. It's important to understand that a regulated tone is not passive. It is intentional. You are not being quiet because you are afraid. You're being measured because you are choosing control. Even firm boundaries can be delivered calmly. In fact, boundaries are stronger when emotion is absent. Emotion invites debate. Calmness signals finality. Another benefit of tone regulation is self-protection. When your voice remains steady, your body receives a signal of safety. This keeps your stress response from escalating. You remain mentally present instead of slipping into fight or flight. Over time, this changes how conversations feel internally. You stop bracing for conflict and start observing it from a grounded position. Regulating tone also changes how you perceive the interaction afterward. When you leave the conversation knowing you stayed composed, there is no lingering shame or self-criticism. You don't replay the conversation wondering why you reacted the way you did. Emotional restraint becomes empowering rather than restrictive. The goal is not to sound emotionless, but to sound intentional. Calm does not mean cold. It means controlled. When your tone is steady, your words land with more weight. You no longer need to convince, persuade, or prove anything. Your voice becomes the anchor, and the conversation can no longer pull you off balance. When a narcissist accuses you of something that feels unfair or completely untrue, your instinct is almost automatic. You want to correct the story. You want to explain what really happened. You want to make sure they don't walk away believing something false about you. This reaction is human, and it comes from a deep need for fairness. But in narcissistic communication, defending yourself rarely protects you. Instead, it places you directly into the role they want you to occupy. Distorted accusations are not meant to be resolved. They are meant to destabilize you. A narcissist may exaggerate events, twist your words, or assign intentions you never had. When you respond by defending yourself, you unknowingly accept the premise that their version of reality deserves equal weight. The conversation then shifts from your lived experience into a debate over their distortion. Once that happens, you are no longer communicating, you are being cross-examined. Defensiveness feeds the dynamic. The more you explain, the more they interrupt. The more evidence you offer, the more details they challenge. No amount of logic satisfies because logic was never the goal. What they seek is emotional engagement. Defending yourself provides that engagement in full. It signals that their accusation landed and that you now feel responsible to clean up their narrative. Another hidden cost of defending yourself is how it erodes your confidence. Over time, repeated accusations followed by forced explanations can make you second-guess your memory, your intentions, and even your character. You may start over preparing for conversations, rehearsing what you will say, or constantly clarifying yourself. This mental burden does not come from wrongdoing. It comes from being repeatedly placed on trial for things that do not require defense. Refusing to defend yourself does not mean agreeing with the accusation. It means declining to participate in a false frame. You are choosing not to argue inside a reality that was designed to trap you. When you respond with statements that acknowledge their perspective without validating it, you keep your footing. You are not denying their feelings, but you are not surrendering your truth either. Simple phrases can hold enormous power when delivered calmly. Statements such as, "That's not how I see it," or "I disagree with that characterization," prevent escalation because they do not invite debate. They communicate your position without opening the door to interrogation. You are not proving innocence, you are asserting autonomy. Distorted accusations often escalate when they fail to provoke the expected reaction. A narcissist may intensify the claim, repeat it louder, or add emotional pressure. This is the moment many people break and start defending harder. Staying grounded here is critical. Repeating your position without adding new explanations sends a clear message that the tactic is ineffective. When you stop defending yourself, the power dynamic shifts. The conversation no longer revolves around clearing your name. It centers on your boundaries. You reclaim control by refusing to argue against things that were never true to begin with. Your energy stays intact because you are no longer chasing fairness from someone unwilling to offer it. This approach also changes how you see yourself. You begin to recognize that integrity does not require constant explanation. People who know you do not need convincing. People who are committed to misunderstanding you cannot be persuaded. Letting go of the urge to defend becomes an act of self-respect. You are not avoiding accountability, you are refusing manipulation.